Hello, welcome to Q&A Thursday. Fantastic to be here. You know, I get very excited with Q&A Thursday. So I'm really pleased to welcome you all here. Now, this is a bit different to our normal. So normal we go live every week. This one's a pre-recording, and I'll tell you why. There's a bit of a story behind it. So last week we did a great webinar. We had people on board and we were talking about the 5 things that you should never say to your team members, right? So we had people interacting and all that, but then all of a sudden the voice stopped working, the video stopped working. It was a bit of a nightmare. So we decided we're going to redo it. So I'm doing it for you again today. This is a pre-recording. So there'll be no live webinar this week. I'm actually in Melbourne doing some work with some work teams over there. So, so this is going to be your webinar for this week, and we will be back live next week. So hold on to that. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about, as I said, it was a really good webinar last week, so I wanted to repeat it to make sure that you guys got all the really good stuff, and so that we could keep going on from there. So without further ado, I will get the slide share up if it all works. I'm sure it will. Of course it'll work. All right, it's perfect. Okay, so let's start the slideshow. It's coming up now. There we are. Fantastic. And I'm just down here. All right, so today we're going to talk about, as mentioned, we're going to talk about, which I think is really, really important, probably something that we haven't talked about before, is the 5 things that you should never say to your team members. So these things that we're going to go through today, they're going to be 5 things that some of them might be really obvious. Some of them you go, what the, why can't I say that? And I'll explain each one of them as we go. But what these 5 things do is they devalue and unmotivate and disengage your team members. So people that use these 5 things or say these 5 things on a regular basis to their team members find they have a high turnover of teams, because let's face it, your team members are your lifeblood of the company. They're the ones that you're going to depend on to do all those jobs that you need getting done. If they're feeling undervalued, if they're feeling unmotivated, and if they're feeling disengaged, you're going to find, number 1, they're not going to perform as well as they should. Number 2, productivity will fall. And number 3, morale's going to hit the floor. And when you've got that, people usually leave. They don't want to hang about. So let's avoid that situation from happening, and let's not say these 5 things. So what's the first one? So I've got my notes here ready so I can give you all the good stuff. Okay, so you don't have what it takes to do that. That's an obvious one. You would think that you wouldn't say that to someone. If you're not going to say that to your kids, you wouldn't say it to your team members, right? So someone's come to you and said, right, you know, I want to do some personal development because I've always wanted to be in sales. And in the back of your mind, you're going, you know what, you're so introverted, you're so shy, there's no chance you're going to do very well in sales. The last thing you're going to say to that person is you don't have what it takes to do it. That is demotivating. This is disengaging. This is devaluing the strengths of that person. So we don't want to say that, okay? So if that person wants to do a career or a role or a project or a task that you think is beyond them, then we mentor and we coach and we support. So what we would then be doing is we'd be saying, okay, Joe, you want to be in sales. There's about 5 stages that we need to go through to get you to where you want to be. The first stage is actually presenting in front of people. So we're going to give you a little project where you're going to do a presentation to the team. So you see what you're doing, you're coaching and supporting that person, pushing them outside of their comfort zone, but towards where they need to be. You're not just going to stand there and say, no, you can never do that because you don't have what it takes. It's also, if somebody wants to become a leader and you think, you know what, you've got years before you're going to be able to become a leader because you just don't have it right now. You're not going to say you don't have what it takes. You're going to say, fantastic, glad to see that you're really passionate about a career path. Let's put some things in place to get you there. So number 1, you need to be mentored. So let's get you a really good mentor. Number 2, you need to lead a project so that you can start learning about leading teams of people. And you will have someone buddying you on that so they can support you when the rough things come along. Number 3, we're going to do a problem solving incident on one of the machines in 3 weeks' time. I'd like you to lead that up. So what you're doing is you're setting that person up with little tasks and little goals and little projects that's going to set them up to be able to be that leader in, it may be 2 years' time or whatever. So you see what I mean? You're not going to just flat out say you don't have what it takes to do it, because honestly, it's not our job to measure somebody's capability for 2 years down the track. Our job is to measure their current capability, determine where they want to be, and then look at the gaps of how we can fill it in. That's what our job is. So you might be very surprised that that introverted, very quiet person who wants to be in sales has got such a passion about it that they actually bust their butt trying to get there, and they end up being, one of the greatest salespeople that you may have ever seen. So please don't underestimate your people and tell them that they don't have what it takes to do it, because you might just find that they do. All right. So that's number one. We're not going to say that to our team members. What's the next one we're not going to say? Okay, I don't have a time to talk to you right now. Okay, so as a leader, I know you've got lots on your plate. I know you're extremely busy. You've got meetings to go for. You've got important clients. You've got investors. You might have, other team members that need your time as well. So you're dividing your time up, and you're very time poor. I get that. It's a common issue that we have in that frontline management, supervisor, team leader level. You're sort of like the meat in the sandwich. However, if one of your team members comes to you and says, Bob, I'd really love to chat to you. I've got something important to say. The last thing you're going to do as you're rushing off to that meeting is go, I don't have time to talk right now. Sorry, mate. And then just dash off. Because what that tells that other person is, number one, you don't care. And number two, they're not really valued enough. Number three, you're not prioritizing your people at all. And number four, well, maybe they're just not going to come and see you next time. That's what you want to stop doing, because if your team stop coming to see you, that is a dangerous place to be. So let's not allow that to happen. So how can you change your language? Yes, you're busy. Yes, you've got meetings you have to go to. Yes, you've got all these other appointments that you need to attend. You can't stop everything just because everybody wants to come and have a chat to you, right? So you're going to change your language a little bit. And this is what you're going to say. You're going to say, do you know what, John? I know you've got something really important to say to me, and I really want to hear it. I'm off to a meeting. It finishes in 40 minutes. Tell me where you're going to be in 40 minutes so I can come and find you. We'll grab a coffee and we'll go and have a chat. So what you're saying is, I can't talk to you right now, but I value what you're going to say, and I'm going to come and follow up with you, and then we're going to have that chat. That is making somebody feel valued. That's making someone feel like that they're worthy of being heard. And that's what you want to leave your team members feeling when they're asking to come and talk to you. Ultimately, if you keep putting your hand up and saying, no, can't talk right now, too busy, no, sorry, got a meeting, no, you're going to have to change it to another day, no, that one-on-one we had on for this afternoon, I'm going to move it to next week because I just can't do it. If you're going to keep doing that, they're going to stop coming to talk to you at all. And that is not a situation you want to be, because that's when they're going to have issues, there's going to be problems coming up, and you're not going to find out about it until the S hits the fan. Okay, so let's not do that. So I don't have time to talk to you right now. Take it out of your vocabulary and let's exchange it with what you're about to say to me is really important. I know. I'll be back in the office in 30 minutes. Where are you going to be so I can come and find you? And we can have a chat about it. Okay, so that's what you're going to change it with. All right, so let's go on to number 3. That's not important. Okay, so some of your team members come to you with concerns, and it might be something that is catastrophic in their mind. They might have some real big concerns about it. It's really, really bugging them. They can't get over it. They can't find a solution to it, all those sorts of things. In your mind, you've got 100 different things in your mind, right? You've got that meeting, you've got that presentation to prepare for, you've got that one-on-one coming up this afternoon that might be a bit hairy, you've got that crucial conversation you need to have. This is not going to be very important to you, right? Now, the last thing you're going to say is, that's not important right now. Don't worry about it. That's the last thing you're going to say, because, again, you're devaluing what they're concerned about. What you're going to do is you're going to ask them about 3 different questions instead. You're going to say, okay, so what have you done so far about that? Then you're going to ask them something like, so what do you think the worst thing is going to happen? And then you're going to ask them, so what do you think we should do next? So what you're doing is you're asking them to find a solution. Future-wise, hopefully, if you keep doing that, they'll come in solutions-focused, not just problem-focused. They'll come in solutions-focused. And if you keep asking them those sorts of questions, they'll start decatastrophizing things in their head. So what's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, well, that machine won't work, so then we'll have to go on to machine 2. So how much time do you think we're going to lose? Oh, maybe about 7 minutes. Okay. So what do you think we should do next? Oh, maybe we should up machine 2 so that if machine 1 does go down, we've got somewhere to put over straight away. Fantastic. Great solution. Let's go do it. You know what I mean? So it's still important to them. You're making it important to you, but you're getting them to help you solve the problem. But just saying, look, machine 1, don't worry about it. It's not important. Just shove it on machine 2. You've solved their problem. You've made them feel like they're a bit stupid because they've come up to you with this sort of real concern and you've just brushed it off as nothing. And that is demotivating, okay? So just make sure that you just offer up 3 questions to them and see how that works for you rather than saying, look, that's not important. Get people to decatastrophize rather than, you know, just telling them what to do. Okay, so number 4. Here we are. Do you know what? I didn't think I'd ever hear this by somebody. I really didn't think that this would happen. But a few months ago, I heard this in a meeting. It wasn't to the actual person, but it was a manager saying, oh, you know, Joe Blow's doing role XYZ. Do you think we got someone else better to do it? And I sat there and I thought, are you kidding me? Because everybody in that meeting, who, whether they knew Joe Blow or not, and I'm just making up that name, of course, whether they knew him or not, then had a preconceived idea that A, this person wasn't performing, B, they wasn't at the standard they needed to be, and C, they weren't welcome to be in their role. What an awful thing for that person to get that, you know, underlying feeling about. So I don't want to ever hear from one of my team leaders, we can always find someone else to do this job. That is a threat. It is a demotivating, devaluing threat, and it's an empty threat. If you have somebody in your organisation that is not cutting the mustard with regards to results, so perhaps they're not meeting deadlines or KPIs or those sorts of things, first step is you coach, you mentor, you support, you try and set them up for success. You want this person to succeed. So you will be having conversations with them. What can I do to help you more? What support do you need? How do you want me to help you? Do you need a buddy to help you through this? So you're going to try and have multiple ways of supporting this person first. If they're still slipping deadlines, KPIs and goals, then you might move down a disciplinary line. Or first off, you'll be determining the capacity. Is this person just busting their gut to do it and they just can't because they don't have the capacity? If they don't, then maybe you have to look at a different role for this person. Maybe we're not leveraging off their strengths. Maybe this person is best set in a different part of the organisation or department. And then the third line you go down is if this person is actually not really trying real hard, they may have some behavioural issues or attitudinal issues, then maybe we need to go down the disciplinary path and see where that goes. So, you know, threatening them with, oh, we can always find someone else to do this job is not the way a great leader will lead their people. So please, please, please don't say those things to your team, or even don't say them to peers. Oh, I think Joe Blow needs to, we can find someone else better to do his job. Well, you know what? If that's the case, you should be coaching and mentoring Joe Blow to either be moving on to a different role where he can leverage off his strengths, or leveraging him out of the business if there's attitudinal or behavioural issues. So, just keep those things in mind. I think they're important. All right, so the last but not least, the fifth thing that you don't ever say to your team members is you're doing perfect. Now, you might be thinking, who doesn't want to hear that they're doing a great job? Everyone wants to know that they're doing a great job. And of course, you are right. Everybody wants to know when they're doing a great job. But let me tell you, there was, and I'm looking at my notes here because I want to make sure I get the facts right. There was a Harvard Business Review study that found 72% of team members thought their performance would improve if their managers would just give them constructive feedback. So this is, the 72% of these people are crying out for constructive feedback. Do you know what? For 90% of that task, you were on point. Everything was right. The 10% was where the opportunity is for you, whether that be time management, whether that be people processes, whether that be following procedures, whatever it may be. So give people stuff to work on. Give people stuff that will stretch them, challenge them, make them grow in a personal and professional development opportunity. So, so telling everybody, patting them on the back, telling them they're perfect and they don't need to change is really, really demotivating, because they will get bored, and you will have high performers in your team that you think are brilliant that will be looking elsewhere for something else because they're not getting any growth in your team. So you need to stretch them. You need to give challenging tasks. Maybe that person's a high performer that you can then get them to work in a mentoring role for some other people. Maybe you can increase their business acumen by getting them to shadow other people in the organization. And, you know, there's multiple ways that you can be innovative by stretching these people. So this isn't saying don't tell them they're doing a great job. Absolutely, tell them they're doing a great job, but also give them some constructive feedback about the areas that is opportunities for them to grow even more. Okay, so I think that that's a really important one. Nobody's perfect, so let's not say that they're perfect. All right, so let's have a look at the review. So the 5 things not to tell your people. You don't have what it takes to do it. Let's not say that. That's not up to us to measure. What's up to us is to determine their current capability and capacity levels. Where do they want to go? What's the gaps? And let's see what we can do to fill in those gaps. Number 2, I don't have time to talk to you right now. That's time, not tie. That was a spello. I'll talk to my people about that. Okay, I don't have time to talk to you right now. Okay, so we don't want to say this because this devaluates people and makes people feel like they're not worthy to talk to you. So what we would be doing is changing our language around to say, do you know what, Fred? What you've got to say is important. I've got this 40-minute meeting. I'll be out in 40 minutes. Tell me where you're going to be in 40 minutes so I can come and find you and we can grab a coffee and have a chat. So then you're acknowledging that what he's got to say is important. Number 3, that's not important. So somebody comes to you with concerns, and they might be concerns that are really not you're not interested in, but it's big concerns to them. I just want you to go to 3 questions. What 3 questions can you ask? They could be something like, what have you done so far about that? What do you think we should do next? What would be the worst thing that would happen? You know, so things like that will get them thinking and decatastrophize their concerns that they're talking about. Number 4, we can always find someone else to do your job. Now, we're not going to say that, are we? If we've got people that are underperforming for whatever reason, then we're going to support and coach those people to success. If they're underperforming because they're behavioural issues and they really don't want to be there and we can't budge them when we've supported and coached as much as we can, then we move down a disciplinary line. If there is a problem that has an issue with capacity, they just can't do that role however much hard they try, then we look at role allocation to something that they can leverage their strengths from. So there's several ways that we can do this. We don't just tell them and threaten them about someone else can do their job if they don't pull up their socks, because really that's not going to make them do anything but probably get you up for some sort of in trouble with the HR manager. So don't do that. And then the 5th and final one is you're doing perfect. So let's still acknowledge everybody's doing a good job or acknowledge the great work that they're doing, but also give them that constructive feedback to say there's an opportunity for you in time management, or there's an opportunity for you that I'd like you to discover around people management. Or let's move on to a more difficult project where you're actually going to be the project lead, not just in the project. So you're pushing people out of their comfort zone. They're still getting that personal and professional growth, so they won't get bored with being where they are, standing still. All right, so there we are. That's the 5 things. What does everybody think? I'm sure that there's some people out there that maybe agree, maybe disagree, don't know. But anyway, I think that these are really important. These are ones that I have seen a bit of around the place, some more than others. And, you know, some of them sometimes come with a shock. You know, you've got your high performers in your team and you're trying to keep them, you know, happy by telling them what great job they're doing and how you couldn't do without them and they're perfect the way they are. And then all of a sudden they get up and leave and you go, what the? Well, it's because they were bored, because they need that challenge. They need that constructive feedback from you. So Lots of things to take into account there. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Now, remember, this is a pre-recording, but we will be up and ready to go live again next week. So stay tuned. I've got a great webinar set up for you for next week. So make sure you click on and join us. But until then, we're done for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Have a wonderful week, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye.